The small patrol ship floated silently through the dark void of space. Its hull was painted in the dull gray colors of the Krath Dominion, the empire that ruled over dozens of star systems with iron discipline. Inside, the crew moved with practiced efficiency. They were young and confident, believing themselves the best soldiers of their species. Their latest mission had seemed easy. They were to capture human children from a remote Terran outpost that had been abandoned for decades. The Dominion believed humans were fragile, weak, and easy to control. No one had warned them what humans truly were capable of. In the holding chamber, the children sat quietly. There were 4 of them, ranging in age from 7 to 12. The aliens had assumed that fear would rule their minds, that tears and begging would fill the room. Instead, the children sat with calm eyes, watching the Krath soldiers with curiosity. A girl with short brown hair, named Lyra, tilted her head and whispered to the boy next to her. His name was Rill. He nodded slightly. "They do not understand," he said quietly, almost to himself. The soldiers thought he was mumbling nonsense. Varn, the ship's captain, entered the chamber with a smile that did not reach his eyes. "See, they are frightened," he said, though even he could not hide a trace of uncertainty. The children did not flinch. They did not beg. Their calmness made Varn's chest tighten. It was unusual. Varn motioned to the soldiers to secure the restraints, though his voice lacked its usual confidence. "Prepare for warp. We take them to the Dominion base for questioning. They will learn what happens to those who resist us." The children whispered among themselves. Reel's voice was soft but firm. "Do they know what happens when humans go missing?" The question was like a ripple in still water. One of the soldiers paused, unsure if he had heard correctly. Another laughed nervously. "What nonsense is this?" he asked. The words felt weak even to him. As the ship jumped into warp, the children's calm presence seemed to fill the ship. The Krath soldiers were used to fear and panic. They were used to the scent of terror that humans supposedly carried. But these children were different. The strange sense of patience and quiet courage unsettled them. They were not afraid. They were not weak. They were watching, learning, and waiting. Far away in a quiet star system, a Terran defense ship received a strange signal. It was a simple distress call, short and urgent. The captain of the ship, Mira, read it carefully. The message came from the abandoned outpost where the children had been taken. Her eyes widened slightly as she realized the contents. "Captured human children," she muttered. She did not need to raise her voice. The crew already understood the meaning. Every member of the team knew the stories of human history. Humanity had fought wars that reshaped galaxies. Humans did not negotiate when their own were in danger. Humans came for them. Mira gave one simple command: "Prepare jump engines. We leave for the coordinates immediately." The crew moved quickly, following orders with disciplined precision. The old Terran warship had been stationed for training exercises, but it was fully capable of defending itself against almost any threat. No one questioned the order. They had trained for this. They had prepared for centuries to protect their own. Back on the patrol ship, Varn looked at the children. He thought he saw something in Ril's eyes. It was not fear, not panic, not weakness. It was a quiet knowledge, as if the boy understood the universe better than the captain himself. He shook his head, trying to ignore the feeling. "Secure them," he said. "We are approaching the Dominion base. Report everything to Commander Run." The holding chamber was quiet. The children spoke in whispers to each other. They shared small observations, small comforts, and small strategies. They were not plotting violence, but they were prepared. Each child carried the legacy of Earth within them, a resilience that had survived centuries of hardship. The Krath soldiers did not notice the subtle strength in the quiet gestures. In the steady breathing, in the unshaken gazes, Varn entered the command hall. The bridge was lit with the soft blue glow of the ship's control panels. The crew were busy at their stations, monitoring the course to the Dominion base. Varn took his seat and checked the reports. Everything was normal. Nothing seemed amiss. But deep inside, he felt a small, unexplainable worry. It was the first time he had felt it in his career. Something about humans was always dangerous, But these were children. How could children be dangerous? Run, the commander of the Dominion base, received the incoming report with curiosity. His fingers tapped on the console as he studied the files. Excellent, he said quietly. The children are finally in our hands. Prepare for questioning. His voice carried authority, but it lacked awareness of what was to come. He had never dealt directly with human children. He did not know that even the youngest Terran carried within them the same courage that had made humanity survive countless wars. The patrol ship arrived in orbit around the Dominion base. The children were moved carefully to the interrogation chamber, a room designed to intimidate. The walls were cold metal, and the lights were harsh. Varn stood in front of them, proud of his achievement. "You are now under Dominion control," he announced. The children looked at him, not with fear, but with calm, almost amused eyes. Lyra tilted her head. "Do you really understand who we are?" she asked. The question was quiet, but it carried weight. Varn felt a chill run down his spine. He looked away, unsure how to respond. The children were small, but they radiated a quiet power that he could not name. Reel spoke again. "Do you know what happens when humans are taken? Do you know what comes for them?" He did not raise his voice. He did not shout. He simply asked the question. The room felt heavier. The soldiers shifted nervously. Back at the Terran warship, Mira studied the incoming signal from the patrol ship. She saw the coordinates of the Dominion base. She gave the order again. All units, jump to coordinates. The children must be brought home. The Terran warship moved through space with precision. The old legends of human courage and determination were about to become reality once more. In the interrogation chamber, the children remained calm. The Dominion soldiers did not know how to react. They were used to fear, to panic, to resistance, but these children gave them nothing. They waited, and in their waiting, they grew stronger. Reel whispered to Lyra, "They do not know. They will learn." Varn left the room, feeling uneasy. He walked down the corridors of the ship, alone for a moment. He tried to convince himself that humans were weak. He tried to dismiss the feeling of dread that he could not name. But deep inside, he knew. He had read enough histories, heard enough stories, and now felt the truth. Humans, even the young ones, were not to be underestimated. The patrol ship floated quietly in orbit, waiting for further instructions. The children remained calm in their cells, speaking softly among themselves. Outside, the stars stretched endlessly, indifferent to the small drama unfolding. But in the distance, a shadow moved. The Terran warship had arrived. Its presence was silent but unmistakable. The calm of the children and the dread of the Krath were about to collide with the legacy of human courage. The tension on the ship grew. Varn could feel it in the movements of his crew, in the hesitation in their voices, the small mistakes that no one would have made before. Something was coming. Something they had never faced. Something they had only heard of in stories. The children sat quietly, ready. The Krath soldiers did not understand that they were already too late. And so, in the cold silence of space, the first part of this story reached its turning point. For small human children had been captured, but they were not afraid. A patrol ship thought it held power, a Dominion base thought it had control, and a commander thought he understood the situation. Yet none of them knew the quiet, unstoppable force that was about to arrive. The children whispered, the stars watched, and history waited to remind the galaxy why humans were never to be underestimated. The Terran warship glided through the darkness of space, a silver arrow moving with silent purpose. Inside, the crew moved with disciplined precision. They were not only soldiers, they were guardians of humanity, trained for moments exactly like this. Captain Mira walked through the bridge, her boots making soft sounds on the polished metal floor. She stopped at the large viewing window, staring at the distant glimmer of the Krath Dominion base. Her eyes were calm but sharp. "We have confirmation," said Lieutenant Heron, her second-in-command. "The children are being held inside the Dominion base. Sensors show minimal security, but they are armed and alert." She paused and added, "They do not expect our arrival so soon." Mira nodded. That is exactly what we need. Prepare the tactical drones and the boarding craft. I want this mission precise. We do not risk the children. We bring them back, safe and unharmed. Her voice carried authority, yet it held warmth. Every crew member understood the weight of her words. They had all grown up hearing stories of humans facing impossible odds, yet never giving up. This was no different. The Terran warship deployed its tactical drones first. Small, agile machines with bright sensors. They zipped toward the Dominion base like swarms of metallic fireflies. Each drone had a single purpose: disable defenses without harming any life inside. As the drones approached the base, the Krath soldiers noticed the movement on their sensors. Varn was the first to react. "What is that?" he barked. "Identify immediately." The crew scrambled, trying to determine if it was a minor surveillance issue or a full-scale attack. It was neither. The drones moved with impossible speed, bypassing turrets and security fields. Each Krath soldier tried to intercept them, but the drones adapted, slipping through every obstacle. Within minutes, the base's automated defenses were offline. The alarms were quieted. The Krath realized with growing panic that something had arrived. It was not ordinary. Inside the holding chamber, the children heard the soft hum of the drones outside. They did not panic. Lyra tilted her head, listening carefully. "They are here," she whispered. Rill nodded. "I told them," he said quietly. "They do not know, but we do. We must wait." The other two children, a boy named Kieran and a girl named Nella, exchanged small smiles. They had learned long ago that fear did not help. Patience and courage were their strengths. Varn paced in front of the command panel, his claws tapping against the metal. He called out to his officers, "Alert the commander. Prepare the defense grid. They will not reach us." His voice was sharp, but the tremor in it betrayed his fear. The Dominion had faced humans before, but never like this. Never with such precision and efficiency. Something was different about these humans. Something that made the Krath feel a weight pressing down upon them. Meanwhile, the Terran boarding craft detached from the warship. They glided silently through the void, carrying skilled soldiers trained in extraction operations. Each soldier was armed not for violence against the children, but for precision against those who would block their path. The youngest of the crew felt a mixture of excitement and responsibility. They were about to rescue human children, and failure was not an option. Captain Mira observed the operation from the command bridge. "Move carefully," she said. "We do not know the full extent of the Krath's response. Keep communication lines open and maintain visual contact with each other. The children come first. Always the children." Her voice was calm but commanding. Every soldier knew that orders were meant to be followed exactly, without hesitation. Back inside the Dominion base, Rune received reports of the incoming Terran fleet. His eyes widened as he saw the approach vectors of the warship and the drones. He could not believe what he was seeing. "Impossible," he muttered. "No Terran ship could reach this far so quickly. They must have anticipated us." Varn, standing beside him, felt his stomach twist. "Commander, we can still protect the children. We must hold our position." Rune's expression hardened. "No, we cannot hold against humans. Not now, not ever. They will come for them, and we are unprepared." His voice was filled with a mix of fear and awe. He had heard legends of Terran courage and determination, but now he was seeing it firsthand. The calm efficiency, the careful precision, the unyielding focus it was unlike anything he had faced before. The boarding craft reached the Dominion base. They slipped past the disabled security measures and glided down to the lower levels where the children were held. The Terran soldiers moved quietly, checking each corridor for threats. They communicated with soft signals, each action planned and measured. The children heard the faint hum of engines and whispers of movement. They stayed still, calm, waiting for the moment they had been promised. Rill whispered to Lyra, "Now." The other two children moved beside them, following the quiet signal. They knew exactly where to go, and their steps were steady and confident. When the Terran soldiers entered the chamber, the children did not scream or cry. They smiled gently, their trust absolute. "We are ready," Lyra said simply. The Terran soldiers nodded and began the extraction process. They checked the restraints and released them carefully. Kieran and Nella stepped forward, looking at the soldiers with wide eyes but calm hearts. "We are safe now," one of the soldiers said, gently guiding them toward the exit. The children followed without hesitation, their faith in their people unshaken. Outside the chamber, Varn watched in disbelief. "How is this possible?" he whispered. The soldiers had moved faster than his defenses could respond. The children had been taken without a single injury, without a single cry. The calm, steady efficiency of the Terran operation was terrifying. He had underestimated humans, and the cost was clear. Captain Mira led the children to the boarding craft. She smiled gently at each one. "You are safe now," she said. "We will take you home." The children returned the smiles, their small hands gripping hers briefly. They felt the warmth of familiarity, the assurance that they were no longer in danger. The Terran soldiers remained vigilant, scanning every corridor as they moved quickly back to the craft. Back on the bridge of the Terran warship, Mira watched as the extraction progressed. "They will not escape," she said softly. "Not this time, not ever." Her eyes met those of Lieutenant Heron, who nodded in silent agreement. The Terran crew knew that the rescue was only part of the mission. They would ensure that the children returned safely to Earth, and that no one in the Dominion ever thought to capture a human again. Varn and Run retreated to the control center. Their faces were pale with fear and disbelief. "We thought humans were weak," Varn said quietly. "We thought they would beg and cry. We were wrong." Ren nodded slowly. "Do not forget this," he said. "Never forget the quiet power of humanity. Even the young carry it. Even the small can destroy what we hold dear." Outside, the Terran boarding craft and warship moved away from the Dominion base. The children were safe, guided gently by the careful hands of their rescuers. Their smiles were small, but full of relief, their eyes bright with the knowledge that their people had come for them. The Krath Dominion had been reminded that humans were never to be underestimated. Not in courage, not in strength, not in heart, as the Terran warship glided back toward friendly space. Captain Mira looked at the stars and thought quietly. Humanity had survived countless dangers over the centuries. They had faced empires larger than any known galaxy. They had overcome impossible odds, and they had never lost faith in each other. The rescue of these children was proof of that enduring spirit. Inside the ship, the children rested, their faces calm and serene. They had witnessed fear, and yet they had known courage. They had been captured, and yet they had been freed. They had learned a quiet truth. Humans always came for their own. Reel looked out the window at the stars. "We will go home," he said softly, "and they will remember us." The Terran crew continued their journey, vigilant but confident. The Krath Dominion would tell stories of this day, stories of humans who came silently, swiftly, and without fear. The galaxy would remember that human courage was not loud, but it was unstoppable. Even the smallest human could change the course of events, could defy expectation, and could inspire awe. And so, as the Terran warship carried the children safely through the void of space, a quiet lesson spread across the galaxy. The Dominion had underestimated humanity, and they would not do so again. The children slept peacefully, unaware of the full weight of their rescue, but carrying within them the quiet strength of their species. Humanity had once more proven that courage, patience, and unity were more powerful than any weapon. In the stillness of space, the Terran warship moved forward, carrying hope, safety, and a reminder to all who watched: humans, even the youngest, were never to be underestimated. The Krath Dominion base was in chaos. Alarms that had never failed before rang uselessly as the intruding. Terran forces moved through corridors and halls with impossible precision. Varn paced back and forth, claws clicking sharply against the metal floor. His mind raced with disbelief. For human children had been captured by his ship, and yet they were gone. They had been taken without a single Krath being injured. Without a single weapon fired effectively. Run, the commander of the base, stood rigidly at the observation panel. His face, usually calm and commanding, was pale. How could they accomplish this? He asked quietly, though the question was more of a statement. Humans are children. They should be weak. They should be easy to control. We were fools to underestimate them. We have broken the first rule of dealing with humanity. Never assume they are fragile. Varn's voice trembled as he replied. Commander, we followed protocol exactly. We restrained them. We isolated them. Everything was according to procedure. Yet they are gone. They could not have escaped on their own. He swallowed, his throat dry. They must have been aided by their people. They were, Ron said, his voice low but steady. And the people who came for them are not here to negotiate. They came to take the children and leave. The Terrans are patient. They are precise. And they do not hesitate. His eyes scanned the star maps, calculating distances and trajectories. We have no time. If we do not act immediately, we will face consequences that cannot be undone. Far beyond the Dominion base, the Terran warship carried the children safely through the void. Captain Mira observed their faces. They were calm, but she could see the weight of recent events in their eyes. Lyra leaned slightly against her, looking out the window at the stars. We will go home, she said softly. They will not touch humans again. Mira nodded. That is the plan. You are safe now. You will return to Earth, where your families await you. She knew that these children represented more than innocence. They represented the resilience of an entire species. They carried the quiet strength that had allowed humanity to survive countless threats. Even in captivity, even in danger, they remained calm and resolute. On the Dominion base, Farn and Run called an emergency council. Senior officers gathered around the main display, showing live feeds of the Terran ships and the drones that had disabled their defenses. The soldiers looked anxious, unsure what to say. Many had never seen humans act with such calm efficiency, especially not in situations that seemed so minor. We underestimated them, Run said finally. This is not a battle we can win through brute force. Humans have something we cannot measure. They have determination, strategy, and patience that exceeds all of our calculations. If we continue as we are, we will lose more than this base. We may lose the credibility of the entire Dominion. One of the officers, a young Krath named Lore, spoke nervously. Commander, what do you suggest? Do we attempt to counterattack? Do we try to reclaim the children? Run shook his head. No, that would be foolish. We cannot face them directly. We must prepare for the consequences of our mistake. Humans do not forgive when their young are threatened. They act. And when they act with precision. Varn looked at Run, confusion and fear mixing on his face. So we do nothing? He asked. We simply wait for them to come. Yes, Run said firmly. We prepare, we learn, and we survive. If the humans wish to escalate, they will. But we must be ready for their response, and we must understand that underestimating them is the greatest mistake we can make. Back on the Terran warship, the children were offered food and rest. Kieran and Nella were shy but attentive. Rill and Lyra spoke quietly, explaining some of what had happened at the Dominion base. They thought they could control us because we are young, Rill said. They do not understand humans. They do not understand patience, courage, or determination. Mira listened carefully, her expression thoughtful. It seems they have learned a lesson the hard way, she said, and it is a lesson that will last. But your safety is our priority now. We will bring you home, and we will make sure this situation does not happen again. Meanwhile, across the Dominion, word of the failed mission spread rapidly. Other bases and patrol ships received reports of the Terran extraction. The galaxy began to whisper about humans once more. This time about the children who had been captured and freed with near-impossible precision. Officers who had never faced humanity felt a chill of fear at the thought. At the central command of the Dominion, high-ranking officials convened. This is unprecedented, said one elder, his voice shaking slightly. Humans have always been unpredictable, but this, they struck without warning and left without harm. They showed control, strategy, and speed unlike anything we have seen. Another officer added, They took only their children and left. There was no wider attack, no provocation beyond reclaiming their own. And yet, they have reminded us of their power. The elders nodded, their faces grave. They realized that the simple act of capturing children had changed their understanding of humanity forever. Every report, every observation confirmed the same truth. Humans, even the smallest among them, were not weak. They were not fragile. They were unstoppable when it came to protecting their own. On the Terran warship, the children rested quietly. Lyra spoke to Riel in whispers. "Do you think they will try again?" she asked softly. Riel shook his head. "No, they have learned. Humans do not give up. They act. And now they know that even small humans can command forces greater than themselves. We must always remember our strength comes from patience and courage, not from weapons or threats." Mira observed the children with a careful eye. "They have endured much," she said softly to her officers. "But they are strong. That strength is human. That strength is what makes us survive, what makes us protect each other, and what makes the galaxy understand that humans cannot be underestimated." Back on the Dominion base, sat in his quarters, staring at the display of the departing Terran ships. His chest felt heavy. "We failed," he whispered to no one in particular. "We captured them, and yet we lost. How is it possible that children have taught us more than our entire fleet could?" Ron entered quietly. "It is possible because humans are not what we measure. They are not what we expect. We calculate speed, strength, and weapons, but humans measure in courage, in patience, in determination. Those cannot be quantified, and that is why we lost this time." Ivar nodded slowly, understanding the weight of his commander's words. "We will remember this," he said. "We cannot forget." Run's voice was steady. "We must remember, and we must adapt. Humanity is not to be underestimated. Not ever. And now the galaxy knows this lesson through the courage of children." Far away, the Terran warship moved steadily toward Earth. The stars passed silently outside, witnesses to the quiet triumph of strategy, courage, and resilience. The children slept, their small hands resting gently, their minds free from fear. They had survived captivity, had seen the strength of their people, and had learned that the galaxy could bend, but humanity would never break. Captain Mira stood at the bridge. Watching the stars, her thoughts focused on the lessons of the day. Humanity's courage was quiet, but unstoppable. Its determination could not be measured, and its patience could not be calculated. Every small human carried within them the essence of survival and the promise of protection for their own. The Krath Dominion would remember the children who had been captured and freed. They would tell stories of the failed operation, of the Terran precision, and of the unstoppable courage of humans. Every officer who had seen the events firsthand would carry the lesson: never underestimate the children. Never underestimate humans. And never believe that strength lies only in size or weaponry. As the Terran ship continued its journey, the galaxy slowly began to whisper again about humanity. The whispers were no longer of curiosity or doubt. They were of caution, of respect, and of a deep understanding that humans, even the youngest, were not to be challenged lightly. And in the quiet of space, as stars glimmered and the Terran warship carried the rescued children safely home, a single truth was clear. Humanity's courage was eternal, its patience unyielding, and its strength beyond calculation. Every small human carried within them the spirit of a species that had survived against all odds. And the galaxy would never forget the lesson taught by 4 small children who had faced capture and emerged victorious. The Terran warship moved silently through space, cutting across the dark expanse like a silver spear. Inside, the atmosphere was tense but calm. Captain Mira stood at the bridge, her eyes scanning the readings from the children and the ship itself. Every crew member was alert, ready for any sign of trouble. Even though the immediate danger had passed, they knew the Krath Dominion would not let such an incident go unnoticed. The children rested in a secure section of the ship. Lyra, her hair falling softly over her shoulders, looked out at the stars. She could feel the rhythm of the Terran ship, the quiet hum of engines, and the patience of the crew. "They are coming for us," she whispered to Rill, who sat beside her. Rill shook his head gently. "They will not harm us. Humans always protect their own. They have arrived in time, and we are safe because of them. Watch carefully. You will see how humans move when they protect each other." Captain Myra turned her attention to the nearby Dominion base. From a distance, it seemed calm, almost peaceful, but the sensors told a different story. The base was in disarray. The sudden appearance of the Terran fleet had disrupted their entire operation. Varn's patrol ships were scattered, and their communication lines were overloaded with alerts. The children had already been removed. The Dominion soldiers were scrambling to understand what had just happened. "Lieutenant Heron," Mira said, "prepare a fleet formation in orbit. We will maintain a defensive perimeter, but we cannot allow them to follow us. Ensure that all boarding craft are secured and ready for immediate launch if necessary." Heron nodded and moved quickly to her station. The Terran crew had trained for decades to respond to threats with calm efficiency. Every movement was deliberate, precise, and measured. Each soldier understood that their mission was not only to protect the children, but to ensure the Dominion learned the lesson fully. Meanwhile, on the Dominion base, Varn and Rand struggled to regain control. "We cannot hold against humans," Varn said, his voice tight with fear. "They are precise, patient, and relentless. Even their smallest forces move with perfect coordination. How can we compete?" Ron's eyes were sharp, his mind calculating. "We cannot compete directly. That would be folly. The humans have shown us that even the smallest of their kind carry power that cannot be measured. Our only choice is to prepare for consequences. We must protect what remains, and we must learn from this lesson. Underestimating humans is not permitted again." The Dominion soldiers worked frantically to restore order. Turrets were reactivated, security grids were recalibrated, and emergency signals were sent across the galaxy. But deep inside, every officer understood the truth. The humans were no longer just a distant legend. They had proven their ability to act swiftly, decisively, and without fear. For small children had reminded the Dominion of what humanity truly represented. On the Terran warship, the children remained calm. Kieran and Nella were curious, but they trusted the crew implicitly. "How do they move so fast?" Kieran asked softly. Mira smiled gently. "Experience, patience, and unity. Humans work together to protect their own. That is our greatest strength." Rill nodded. "They will not make the same mistake again. The Dominion will remember us, even if we are small. They will understand that humans are not weak. They protect their children at all costs." As the Terran fleet moved away from the Dominion base, sensors detected a small fleet of Krath ships emerging from behind nearby asteroids. The vessels were old and slow, but they were armed and ready. Varn had managed to rally a few remaining patrol ships to attempt a counterattack. The Krath hoped to intercept the Terran fleet before it could escape with the children. Captain Mira remained calm. "All units, hold formation. We are prepared for engagement, but remember, our priority is defense and protection. Do not engage unless necessary. The children are our first concern." Krath ships fired warning blasts, attempting to intimidate the Terran crew. The hum of their weapons echoed faintly across space, but it was ineffective. The Terran ships responded with careful maneuvers, avoiding conflict while maintaining a protective perimeter around the boarding craft. Every movement was precise, every action deliberate. Varn watched helplessly as his ships failed to gain any advantage. "They are untouchable," he muttered. "Even our attacks cannot harm them." Run stepped beside him, his expression grave. "This is not because of superior firepower. This is because humans understand strategy beyond brute force. Even their ships, even their soldiers, move with patience and foresight. That is why they succeed. That is why our base was breached and why our children were taken." Inside the Terran warship, Mira monitored the situation carefully. The Krath were desperate, but they could not touch the children. The boarding craft remained secure. The crew prepared for immediate response if the Dominion attempted a full-scale attack. Lyra watched the Krath fleet through the observation window. "They do not understand," she said softly. We are not afraid, and our people will always protect us. Rill nodded in agreement. Patience and courage. They cannot measure it, and they cannot stop it. The Dominion ships fired sporadically, trying to create confusion. But the Terran fleet moved with calm precision, avoiding unnecessary conflict while maintaining their course. Each maneuver was calculated to protect the children and demonstrate the effectiveness of strategy over aggression. The Krath officers began to realize that brute force alone would never win against humans. Back on the Dominion base, Ron gathered the remaining officers. "We have underestimated humanity," he said firmly. "Even the smallest among them have shown strength that we cannot calculate. Their determination, patience, and courage exceed any weapon we possess. We must learn this lesson. Never underestimate humans, especially when they're young, are involved." Varn's claws clenched in frustration. "We were supposed to control them," he said bitterly. "We were supposed to hold them and show our strength. And yet they escaped untouched, and we were powerless." Quan's gaze was steady. "Powerless because we measured strength incorrectly. The humans operate on values we do not understand. Courage, unity, patience, and determination. These are not weaknesses. These are forces that cannot be countered by weapons alone." On the Terran warship, the children were escorted to the secure quarters. They were calm but aware of their surroundings. Kieran looked around and asked, "Will they try again?" Mira shook her head. "They will remember today. They will know that humans cannot be underestimated. That is the lesson they will carry throughout the galaxy." The fleet moved steadily away from the Dominion territory. Every ship was alert, every crew member prepared, but there was a quiet confidence in the air. The operation had been a success. The children were safe. And the Dominion had been reminded of a simple truth. Humans, no matter their age, were never weak when protecting their own. Riel looked at the stars and whispered to Lyra, "This is only the beginning. They will remember. We are small, but we carry the strength of our people. Even now, the galaxy learns what it means to challenge humans." The Dominion officers tried to reorganize their scattered fleet. Varn and Run worked tirelessly to restore order, but the lesson was already clear. Humanity had acted with patience, efficiency, and courage. Their actions had been precise, calculated, and unyielding. 4 children had changed the balance of power in a small part of the galaxy, and their impact would be felt for generations. Back on the Terran warship, Captain Mira addressed her crew. "We have succeeded today not by force, but by strategy and unity. Humans protect their own with courage that cannot be measured. Remember this. Protect each other. Always. That is the strength of humanity." The children listened quietly, understanding without words. They had witnessed the calm and determination of their people, seen the precision and care of the Terran crew, and felt the unwavering support of those who had come for them. They carried a quiet pride, a knowledge that even the smallest among them could inspire fear in those who underestimated humanity. As the Terran fleet continued its journey, the Dominion ships retreated. The Krath had learned a lesson that would remain in their minds for a long time. Humans were not weak. Humans could not be predicted. Humans were patient, clever, and courageous. The capture of 4 children had turned into a demonstration of power far greater than any weapon or fleet could convey. "Captain," Myra watched the stars in silence, knowing that the galaxy had witnessed the same lesson. Humanity's courage was quiet but unstoppable. Its patience was unmatched, and its strength came from unity and determination. Every small human carried within them the legacy of a species that had survived countless threats. And the galaxy had been reminded of this truth in a way that no one would forget. Inside the secure quarters, the children smiled softly. Lyra turned to Rill and said, "We are safe, and they will remember us." Rill nodded. "Yes, they will remember the courage of humans. Even small humans can change the course of events. That is our strength. That is the legacy we carry." The Terran warship moved steadily through space, carrying hope, safety, and a reminder to the galaxy. Humans, even the youngest, were never to be underestimated. And the Dominion had learned a lesson that would echo across star systems. To challenge humanity, was to challenge patience, courage, and determination itself. The Terran warship moved steadily through space. Carrying the children safely toward Earth, the crew maintained a calm vigilance, scanning the stars for any sign of pursuit. Captain Mira remained on the bridge, her eyes fixed on the distance. Every decision, every maneuver, had been carefully planned. Humanity's courage and strategy had won the day, but the memory of the Dominion's mistake lingered in her mind. The galaxy had seen the consequences of underestimating humans. Inside the secure quarters, the children were quiet but alert. Lyra looked at Rill and said softly, "Do you think they will try again?" Rill shook his head gently. "No, they have learned. Humans protect their own. They act without hesitation when it comes to their children. That is why they will not risk it again." Kieran, the youngest of the group, looked around at the crew and smiled faintly. "We are safe now," he said. "They came for us." Mira walked into the room and knelt to meet the children at eye level. Her expression was gentle but firm. "You are safe now. You are going home. Everything has been done to ensure your protection. You do not need to worry anymore." The children nodded, feeling the weight of relief. They had been captured, faced fear, and yet they had witnessed the courage and precision of their people. They had learned that even in danger, humanity's determination could not be broken. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the Krath Dominion was still in turmoil. Vaughn and Ron worked tirelessly to assess the damage done to their fleet and their reputation. "We were foolish," Varn admitted quietly. "We thought humans were weak. We thought children could not be a threat. And yet 4 small humans have reminded the galaxy of their power." Ron's expression was stern. "It is not just power," he said. "It is determination, patience, and unity. These are not measured by weapons or fleet size. Humans protect their own with a force that cannot be countered by fear alone. This lesson will remain with us forever." The Dominion officers discussed their next moves. They knew they could not challenge humans directly. Any attempt to capture or harm Terran children again would provoke a response that could destroy fleets and bases alike. Even the smallest human had shown the Dominion that courage and strategy were more powerful than brute strength. On the Terran warship, the children were offered food and warmth. The crew moved with care, ensuring that each child felt safe and reassured. Nella, who had been quiet throughout the mission, looked up at one of the soldiers and said softly, "Thank you. You saved us." The soldier smiled gently. "It was my duty. And you were brave, even when it was frightening. That is what makes humans strong." Rill nodded in agreement. Courage is not about size. It is about standing firm when the world challenges you. Humans have always known this, and today we have shown it. As the ship approached the edges of the Terran system, communication channels were opened to Earth. The families of the children were notified. And joyous news spread across the planets. Parents, siblings, and friends prepared to welcome the children back. The story of the rescue became a tale of pride and awe. Humanity had acted with precision, patience, and courage. 4 children had been captured, and yet the galaxy had witnessed a demonstration of strength far beyond expectation. Captain Mira addressed her crew on the bridge. "We have succeeded not by force alone, but by strategy, unity, and courage. Humanity's strength lies in protecting each other. Let this mission remind us that even the smallest among us can change the course of events. Remember this always." The children listened quietly, understanding without words. They had seen fear, yet they had known courage. They had been captured, yet they had been rescued without harm. They understood now that humans protect their own and that patience, determination, and strategy were as powerful as any weapon. Back in the Dominion, Varn and Run analyzed every aspect of the failed operation. They reviewed logs, security feeds, and communications. Every officer involved in the mission understood that the lesson was clear. Humans were not to be underestimated, ever. Even the youngest humans carried within them a quiet power that could change outcomes across star systems. Run addressed the remaining Dominion fleet. "We have underestimated humanity before, and we will not make the same mistake again. Remember today, and remember the courage of humans. Never capture their children. Never challenge their unity. Humanity is stronger than we calculate. Varn's claws flexed as he absorbed the weight of those words. We have learned, Commander. This failure will guide us. We will not forget. On the Terran warship, the children prepared for arrival. Earth appeared in the distance, blue and green, shining brightly against the blackness of space. Their hearts filled with relief, pride, and hope. The crew guided the ship carefully, ensuring a safe approach to the planetary landing stations. Lyra whispered to Reel. It feels like we have made a difference, even though we are small. Reel smiled gently. We reminded the galaxy that humans protect their own. Even the smallest among us carry courage that cannot be measured. As the Terran ship entered orbit, communications opened with the ground stations. Families of the children received confirmation of their safe return. Joyful voices echoed across the channels, filling the hearts of everyone involved with warmth and relief. The children were guided from the ship. With careful attention to their safety, parents ran to embrace them, and siblings held hands in happiness. Tears and smiles marked the reunion. The story of their capture and rescue spread quickly, inspiring awe and admiration. Humanity had acted with precision, courage, and unity, and the galaxy had witnessed the quiet strength of its people. Captain. Mira watched from the bridge as the children were safely returned. Her eyes reflected pride and satisfaction. They are home, she said softly, and the lesson has been learned. Humanity's courage, patience, and unity are unmatched. This story will be remembered across the galaxy. The children smiled at Mira and the crew. Thank you for protecting us, Kieran said. We will never forget what you did, Myra nodded gently. It is our duty, and your bravery made it possible. You showed strength even in the face of danger. That is the true power of humanity. In the Dominion base, Varn and Run continued to reflect on the events. They were children, Varn said, still in disbelief. And yet they have taught us more than any battle ever could, Run nodded. Yes, humans, even the youngest, carry within them a power of courage, patience, and strategy. That is the lesson we must never forget. Humanity protects its own, and that protection cannot be broken by force alone. Across the galaxy, whispers of the mission spread. Tales were told of the small human children who had been captured and rescued with precision. The Dominion had learned a lesson that would endure. Humanity could not be underestimated. Even the smallest humans could inspire fear, respect, and awe through their courage and the unity of their people. Back on Earth, the children reunited with their families. Lyra held her mother's hand, feeling safe for the first time in weeks. Ril embraced his father, knowing that they were finally home. Kieran and Nella ran to their siblings, laughter and joy filling the air. The mission had succeeded. Not only in rescuing the children, but in proving the enduring strength of humanity. Captain Mira debriefed her crew. Today, we have reminded the galaxy of the courage, patience, and unity of humanity. The children are safe. The Dominion has been warned, and humanity's strength is clear. Always remember that even the smallest among us carry the legacy of survival and protection. The children, now safe and surrounded by their families, whispered among themselves. We have made a difference, Lyra said softly. Yes, Ril replied. Even small humans can change events across galaxies. Courage and patience are stronger than weapons, and unity is unstoppable. As the Terran fleet departed from the system. Moving back into patrol routes and protection missions, the galaxy had learned an enduring truth. Humans protect their own. Humans act with courage and patience. Humans, no matter their size or age, are never weak. The story of the 4 children who had been captured and rescued would echo across star systems for generations. The Dominion had been warned. Humanity's message was clear. Do not underestimate courage, patience, and unity. Protect your own, and you will never be defeated. Even the smallest human carried within them the quiet strength of an entire species, a reminder to all who would dare to challenge humanity. And so, as Earth grew larger on the horizon, the children returned safely. The Terran crew celebrated their success, and the galaxy remembered the lesson. Humanity's strength was not only in numbers or weapons, but in courage, unity, and the unwavering determination to protect their own. The children smiled, families embraced, and the galaxy had learned the quiet but unstoppable power of humans.